In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make hardwood cuttings. It's now the middle of November and we've had some cold weather. We had a bit of snow a couple days ago. Last night was about freezing. It's warmed up to a few degrees today, but it's still a very cold day. But this is a perfect time to take hardwood cuttings. I'm standing beside a very special tree called Prunus marianjarvi. Marianjarvi is a friend of mine, and she brought back this plant from Asia a number of years ago. And we don't really know what the parentage is, but it's quite an unusual prunus. Now, I bought this plant about 3 years ago. It's not a great plant. It's kind of crooked. Had a crooked stem when I got it. And it's double grafted. So it's grafted at the ground level, and it's grafted right here. And I really don't like grafted plants in my garden if I can help it. And the reason is that I just don't trust these grafts. A lot of grafts are okay, but every once in a while the graft union will fail. And if this part of the tree ever fails, I lose the whole thing, and I don't know if I can replace it. Besides, I like to have several of these on the property just so I have some backup trees. I have taken some semi-hardwood cuttings, and they rooted fairly well in the summer, but I wanted to try hardwood cuttings and see how those do. I also have another problem right now, is that this tree is getting larger, and this particular branch is growing out into the pathway, which is right here. And so it's going to start being in the way, and I want to try and train this tree to grow a little more upright and a little more away from the pathway. So I think I'm going to get rid of this branch here and then use it for the cuttings. So I'll come back later and cut this piece off with a pruning saw. So let's go make some cuttings. So what is a hardwood cutting? When trees and shrubs start to grow in the spring, they make a new growth which is light green and it's very soft. And we call that a softwood. As the summer goes along, the new growth gets longer and longer and it starts getting a bit stiffer. By around the 1st of August, in this zone, which is zone 5, the tree and shrub has stopped growing, and it starts going through a special process to get ready for winter, and that's hardening off. The green growth starts getting harder, and it actually changes inside to become real wood. The color gets darker, it gets much stiffer, and that is what we call a hardwood. When we're doing hardwood cuttings, we take pieces of wood off when it's hard, which is in the fall. Or you can even do this in the winter if you like. So we want to look for the growth that grew last summer. Back here we have growth from the previous year. That's too old and it doesn't root very well. We want last summer's growth, which is right here. You want cuttings that are about this long. 6 to 8 inches is good, and I tend to use my forefinger and thumb as a ruler. So I want a cutting like this. Now you can make horizontal cuts, you can make slanted cuts. Everybody does it a bit different, and it really doesn't matter. What I like to do is a horizontal cut at the top and a vertical cut at the bottom. So it looks like a shovel. This is slanted here, and this is straight across here. Now the reason you do that is so that you don't get the top and bottom mixed up. They need to be planted the right way up. You don't want to do it this way. And if you cut the two ends differently, you'll always know which end is up. So diagonal cut down here, this long, horizontal cut here. The tip doesn't root quite so well, so we discard that. When you're making these cuts, make the cut close to a bud, but not right on top of it. If you cut it too close, that bud will dry out. So a little bit below it, a little bit above it. Now we try to make them all about the same length. It just makes it easier for planting them later. Once you have the cuttings made, you can consider using some rooting hormones. It's not absolutely necessary, but if you do use it, try to use a number 3. This has a higher amount of rooting hormone in the powder, and it tends to make hardwood cuttings root better. To put rooting hormone on, stick it in, give it a good shake, and you're done. Now, professionals will tell you that you really should take a bit of this powder out, put it in a separate dish, use that dish, and then throw away the excess. That way you don't get any cross-contamination of diseases. And for a professional outfit, that's probably a good idea. To be honest, I don't do that. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I just use the container. The trick is not to put too much on. This is a case where too much rooting hormone can stop it from rooting. So dip it, shake it, you're done. And that's really all there is to preparing your cuttings. Now let's go plant them. It's time to get these cuttings in the ground. Try and find an out-of-the-way spot in your garden, somewhere where the cuttings won't be in your way and you can pretty much forget about them. A vegetable garden is a good choice. Just use your normal garden soil. We're not going to do anything to it. No amending, no peat moss, no perlite. All those things you do for softwood cuttings and semi-hardwood cuttings, we're going to forget about that. Use your native soil. Dig a hole about 6 inches deep. Now take your cuttings and line them all up. Just keep them in a nice bundle and stick them in the hole. You want most of the cutting below ground and just leave an inch or so above ground, but at least one of the buds should be above ground. Pack the soil in around the cutting. Make sure you label it. Now you can water it in, but in my climate it's pretty wet in the fall, so I don't bother with that. Next summer, treat them as you do your normal garden. If it gets really dry, give them a bit of water. We're going to let these sit now until next September. In late August, early September, come along and dig them up and see if you have roots. If you don't, put them back in the hole and wait till the following spring. If they have rooted, you can pot them up or plant them out and start growing your new plants. I hope you enjoyed this video.